Come with us as we kayak the Aegean Sea, explore our first ever European city, and pet every Greek cat that we can find. I feel like I'm Our travel day started with watching the sun set over Boston, flying through the night to see some northern lights, and landing in Denmark to the sunrise. How would you describe the smell right now?
It smells like what it looks like. That feels amazing.
We arrived in Athens in the afternoon and challenged ourselves to stay awake as long as possible so we could sleep through the night at normal hours and wake up refreshed and ready for the next day. Kevin and I had both been a little nervous to visit Athens because neither of us had been to such a large, dense European city before. Sure, Kevin had been to New York City before, but the largest city that I've ever experienced was Chicago, and this felt vastly different in comparison. After taking the train immediately upon arriving at the airport and starting to walk around the city, we relaxed immediately as we found that it was a super easy place to walk around, explore, and get back to our hotel when we needed to. This looks ridiculous. It literally looks like... Thankfully, we were able to get to bed at a good time, which meant that we woke up refreshed and without jet lag. So we set out with no clear plan other than to explore the city more. There was a giant park right next to where our hotel was, so we got breakfast and then headed off to the park to see what it had to offer us. The night before, we had ended walking around 3 miles in the city before going to bed. This day, we ended up walking close to or just over 10 miles. There was so much to see and explore, and at the end of the day, we walked up a hill that gave us a spectacular view of the city. We got to enjoy the sunset while having a drink and some orange pie. The next day was fully dedicated to doing the typical tourist activities in Athens. We started with a tour of the Acropolis, and then we jumped over to the Acropolis Museum, where a lot of the original pieces of art or building have been stored so that many can appreciate it for years to come. It's during this time that I actually started to feel sick, which was not great, so as our day continued, I only felt worse. I don't know. It's probably really... We jumped over to the ancient Agora, where we got to walk around a city with a lot of intact buildings. However, I was feeling pretty terrible by this time, so I didn't take many videos and was honestly ready to go back to the hotel so I could lay down. This was the time where my throat was so sore that despite it being over 90 degrees outside, I sat at a cafe drinking multiple hot chocolates in order to soothe my throat. That night, Kevin had the unfortunate joy of learning that the restaurant on top of our hotel turned into a nightclub on the weekends. With throat lozenges and a mask in hand, we headed on the next part of our journey, which was taking a ferry across the sea to our final destination of the island of Naxos. Having spent most of the ferry ride asleep and trying not to cough, we were herded off the ship when we arrived at Naxos. After a trek across the city where it was very hot, have I mentioned how hot it was? Sweating, we made it to our hotel, and the first thing we did was strip off our clothes, put on a bathing suit, and get into the beautiful ocean water. Now at this point, my body had reached its limit. While we were able to cool off in the water, when we made it back to the hotel, I collapsed onto the floor. I told Kevin that I could not leave the room, I needed to sleep, and he could go and eat without me, so that's what he did. I slept for a few hours, we made it out in the evening to go get dinner, and then when we came back to the hotel, I immediately went back to bed. Our second day in Naxos was definitely a highlight of our trip as we went on a sea kayaking tour. This was the first time other than swimming in the ocean at our hotel that we got to be up close with the Aegean Sea, and wow, is it beautiful. It's hard to say it's beautiful knowing that it's beautiful because it's so dead, but we definitely enjoyed ourselves on this trip, getting out to snorkel, do a little cliff jumping, and overall have a great time.
Can you, some last words? Like I'm sorry or something? No? You don't regret anything? Woo!
The main reason that Kevin really wanted to come to Greece was so that he could spend time cycling on this island with a friend of his. So he definitely got to do that and had some pretty amazing cycling routes and sights. Another activity that Kevin's friend had recommended to us was doing a food tour in one of the many small cities on Naxos. So we went ahead and did one in Aperinthos, and it was an amazing experience, and we will definitely be doing more food tours in the future. The remainder of our time spent in Naxos was spent exploring the island, finding beaches with one or no people on them, and generally just enjoying our time in this beautiful place. I was very proud of myself. One of the days I drove by myself around the island, which seems silly to be proud of, but driving in a car in a foreign country and a place we've never been to was a little scary. So I was excited that I was able to go outside of my comfort zone and do that.
Turn fingers, because it says Naxos too.
Take the next right, then turn right. In 100 meters, turn right.
This was one of the first trips that we've ever had that as the end of the trip came closer, we were both actually sad for it to end. Most trips we're ready to go home and get back into our own space, but this trip was so enjoyable and such a beautiful place that we were both sad for it to end and starting to dream about coming and staying in Naxos for maybe a couple of months in the future.
I'm gonna shoot before then.
We headed back to Athens and had one day before we were headed back home, so we decided to check out the National Archaeological Museum, which was an insane place with all kinds of history in it. Really puts into perspective how old other parts of the world are, and we really enjoyed getting to see all the different time periods, the art that they created, and all of the history that existed there. We watched our final sunset in Greece and headed back home.